It's Thursday evening once again, and that means we're heading towards another Auburn football game, which means that we've got to preview and predict what's going to happen for Auburn versus Kentucky. Game 8, I believe, on the schedule at this point. It's all running together during a tough season. We're going to get into predictions about what's going to happen, the score, all of that. Let's preview Auburn versus Kentucky starting now. Well, War Eagle Auburn family, and a special War Eagle and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C Network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, replay, however you got here, whenever you got here. Thanks for being here and being part of this little family within the Auburn family. Tonight for the stream, we've got a very important one for you, one that we weren't able to do last week because we were celebrating tip-off at Toomer's, but we're back in studio, ready to sit down and hash it out. Auburn versus Kentucky. Our preview, our prediction, and I will give you my score prediction by the end of this thing about what may or may not happen. We're going to look at, obviously, what we think we know about this team, meaning Auburn, what we think we know about Kentucky. We'll look at some stats, look at some facts around the game. We'll bring up some documents for you, and then we'll talk it out. We'll go through different scenarios. So that's how the show will work tonight. 2-part show, really a 3-part show if you want to count the Q&A at the end. We'll go through the informational portion, our preview part, to talk about some things maybe that you are interested to know about this game, the history of it, all that kind of stuff. Then we'll go into our predictions mode, and then at the end of the show, we'll leave some time, hopefully, for a little bit of Q&A. As you're coming through the stream, please do make sure you do a couple things for us. Let us know that you're here. Some of you are already doing that. Smash that like button as you come in, too. If you enjoy our content, it's a huge help to us. It lets people know that we're live or on the replay. It lets people know to come check this thing out. So that's a great thing that you can do for us. Auburn versus Kentucky. I know the temperature of the fan base right now is still pretty hot, although I would say things have quieted down just a little bit. Has finally, I think moving into a state of understanding or rationalizing where this team and program is at. Where that heads us into the Kentucky game, obviously, we're going to break it down a little bit tonight. Do we think we're going to get the win? I will tell you, from just reading the conversations I've seen online, other streams we've done, it seems once again that a little bit of optimism is thankfully starting to set in. We'll see if that carries over for our stream tonight. But to start off with, let's move into our informational phase of our show here, where we talk a little bit about things that you may need to know. And as you guys are coming into the stream too, thank you for announcing who you are, where you're from, watching from. It's always good to see where people are checking in from for our live portion of our show, especially. So shout out to Stan, WT, and 313 already here and ready to roll tonight. All right, so let me bring up some documents for you. We'll do that, go through most of that. I don't have too many tonight. I usually take one from Auburn, one from Kentucky, and then we usually use the ESPN statistics that are out there to talk about anything further that we need. I do have the injury report as of midday today that was put out that we can talk through a little bit too, that I think is going to factor into this game when we look at some of the depth chart situations for Kentucky. But to start off with, let's go ahead and do it now, and we'll talk a little bit about Auburn. Now, as you can see, this is a document that you can find online if you're interested in it. I don't have, it's a very long document. You can go find it for yourself. Just go to the schedule page and it has the notes there and you can go read all these, or you can freeze frame if you'd like, if you'd really like to go into detail on some of these things. Don't have a lot of things highlighted for you today, but I do want to talk through a little bit with it of you so that we can talk about context around the game. Obviously, we know that the kickoff is set for 6:45 Central Time. Central Time is the key thing there for Auburn versus Kentucky, a night game. It feels like every time we go to Kentucky, it's a night game. When we were there, when Sean White was the quarterback, it was a night game, and it was on a Thursday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me on that if that's not true. That feels like it's right there. I feel like I went over to someone's house over here in Atlanta to watch it. And then obviously Cam Newton, which I was there for that one. So I've got some very vivid memories of what at the time was CM Newton Field. I think now it is called CM Newton, which is funny, right, Cam? Grounds in Kroger Field. You do with what you want, make jokes about Kroger and all that stuff, but being played in Lexington at Kroger Field, 6:45. And there you see where it's going to be on TV. You can look through the document and see, obviously, you'll know your radio team, who else is going to be part of the broadcast, and all of that good stuff right there. Obviously, Auburn is coming off of 4 straight losses, all in the SEC, all against, at least now in hindsight, are all good football teams in the SEC. Arkansas now appears a lot better than they did when they first played us. Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri were all ranked. Thankfully, Auburn will finally get a break and not have to face a ranked opponent. Doesn't mean it won't be formidable. I think it will be, especially a night game in Lexington, Kentucky. There are nobody's ranked. You can see, obviously, the records there. Not great for Hugh, not great for Mark Stoops either. I actually have a lot of respect for Mark Stoops as a head coach. I think he's made Kentucky relevant. If you look at his overall record, it's not great, 66 and 69, 12th, I guess, overall at Kentucky. So I understand. I talked to some Kentucky fans on our TikTok stream today. I understand you may not be the biggest fans there, but from an outside perspective, I thought at least that he puts you in a position of relevancy in the SEC. So there you go. You can read through there if you'd like to see some more about, this time of year when Auburn wins or how often they win, those kind of things. The series history, all-time series, which was played in 1938 and has been played was played annually from 1954 to 71. Auburn leads Kentucky by a margin of 27-6-1. So always that pesky tie there. Look at that margin of victory for Auburn. Kind of goes back to what I said to Kentucky fans earlier when I was talking to them. Look at your record against us. Mark Stoops may not have been able to beat us, which I believe he still would have been this is his 12th year as the head coach. Wow, has he really been around for 12 years as the Kentucky head coach? Is that real? My goodness, that can't be right. I'm kind of having a little trip out moment here, but he's been around for a while. So which means he would have played in the last time that we played at their place. Yes, he was the head coach when they came to Auburn, and I believe we did win that game. It was the first one of that weird COVID year. Anyway, so there's your overall record, and see how that shakes out. Neil's talking about it now, 27-6-1 against Kentucky all time. You can see how it breaks down further there in the information if you are interested in seeing that right there. Auburn has scored a school record 149 consecutive games dating back to the first game in 2013, tying the program record set for 1980 to 92. So keep that in mind. We are scoring. We are moving the ball down the field. We're just making mistakes that put us in positions not to win the game. Auburn is tied for national lead with BYU and Vanderbilt with 10 players who have caught a touchdown pass this season. Now, in weeks past, this has been Auburn by itself, I believe, for a long time. Finally, BYU and Vanderbilt have matched that. I don't know that we can expand that much further because obviously we've done that a lot with some of our wide receivers, Perry Thompson, Lambert Smith. I don't think Caleb Burton has gotten one yet this year. But yeah, Sam Jackson's gotten one. Running backs have gotten one, a couple. So we've moved the ball around a lot. The Tigers lead the nation with 13 pass plays of at least 40 yards per game, going back to the explosive nature of Auburn's offense, which again boggles the mind. And Keandre Lambert-Smith, our star receiver, ranks 17th nationally, 5th in the SEC in yards per reception. You can continue to read some more of that. Auburn's 5th nationally in yards per completion, and they're 11th nationally in net punting. That's gone down a little bit. It was much higher at the beginning of the season, but it gives you kind of a idea of where Auburn kind of shakes out in a few of these things. So let's move on to our next one, and I'll show you again. This is the depth chart. Nothing's really changed with the depth chart since we've been talking about it. This shouldn't be a surprise. Peyton Thorne and Hank are still listed as but it's Peyton Thorne's job right now. Everybody else that factors into the equation right there. Cam Coleman, nice to see him back there, but I think he's probably firmly starting above Camden Brown. And, I don't know if this has actually been updated a whole lot because we may, as we discussed last night, there may be some movement in the tackle regions. I don't know that's going to be 100% fact, but we'll see how it shakes out there, and then the madness that ensues on there. But there's your depth chart, at least, for Auburn football. I don't like I said, I took away some of the slides I typically show you guys because I wanted to kind of be a little bit more fine-tuned with this and get into our predictions portion of the show. But let's go ahead and move over to something I got from Kentucky. Now, this is actually from Kentucky, but as you can see, it's from the NCAA website. But I like the way they had it laid out here. We're going to look at team statistics for both teams, but obviously Kentucky and then, Kentucky versus their opponent. And this should help you formulate some better predictions as we go throughout the night. Won't talk through every single one of these, but let's take a look at those, a few of those. We got scoring. They have 143 points. Their opponents have allowed they've allowed their opponents 135 points per game, 20, 19. What are you seeing here? Pretty even, obviously, with the number of points, the points off of turnovers. They are in a lot of competitive games, it seems like. We'll see if that matches out in the results when we look at their last couple of games. Rushing yardage, total yards gained rushing, 1,277. They've allowed 509. Passing yardage, they have 1,175 and given up 1,252. You can break that down even further. If there's anything that sticks out interesting to you guys in some of these statistics, let me know. Oh, and I actually think I brought up the wrong one. I know I just realized that I had the wrong one up there for you guys. So sorry about that. Where is it at? Actually, where did it go? Why is this one not showing up on the screen for you guys? There it is. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. So this is the depth chart, or at least who that's played in the game. I don't know why I didn't save that one image for you guys. Well, I'm sorry about that. I've been reading off a page that you guys don't necessarily have. And why is it missing from mine thing? Let's go back to this since we need to talk about what's on screen. This gives you an idea of who to expect in our game, maybe. We'll look at the injury report. Who I have highlighted on this page, I think, is important to note because they are either out or questionable for this game when I did a quick scan of everything. So obviously their right tackle, I believe, is out. Their running back, two of their running backs are questionable, but a starting one there, at least who started against Florida. And then if you look on defense, Silver, their nose guard, is, I also believe, questionable as well. So keep this in mind when you're making your predictions. What are they going to be missing out on? They've got some injured running backs. Their right tackle, there's going to be some movement there. And then obviously in the middle of their defensive line, there could be a little bit of people moved around because of Silver it being questionable or maybe not 100% if he does play. But as you can see, this gives you an idea if you look through the list who started where most of the year. You're not going to see a lot of change up there unless there's been an injury. Brock Vandergriff has been the starting quarterback the entire year, as I think most of y'all are well aware. Okay, let me see what page it did save on here for you all. That is very interesting. I don't know why it didn't do that for you guys. This is a much more well-rounded page anyway. Well, is it? Okay, this is the page that I was talking off earlier. I just had them out of order for some reason when we saved on there. But you can see there, kind of like we were talking about, scoring, first downs, rushing yardage, passing yardage, total offense has been 2,239. They've allowed 1,985 on the year. So essentially, you can break that down per game. 319 they're getting per game. They're allowing 283. A lot of these statistics are very close together on what they're allowing versus what they're getting. If you want to look at punt returns, all that kind of stuff, punts, all that's here listed for you as well. I'll even show you the next page as well. Like I said, I don't want to bore you guys with going all the way through it, but I did want you to have the information that you could freeze frame, come back to, look at if you're interested. Score by periods. I found this very interesting when we talked, I think, in Georgia, and it actually ended up being kind of true. So if you look at this right now, it looks like Kentucky scores really well in the second quarter, and pretty well in the second half too. The first quarter they're usually outscored. So probably a good idea for Auburn to maximize, especially on the road in the first quarter, because you can expect, at least it appears that way, an onslaught to come in the second quarter with pretty even what they have done over the third and the fourth quarter. And you can see the total scoring, even with the periods broke out there, the different quarters. That's why I keep saying periods, because that's what it's there, but it's quarters. Come on, get it right. Okay. All right. So that is that stuff for you. Let me bring up this injury report. Let's mention that before we kind of round out our topics tonight on kind of previews before we get into predictions. If you look here on our injury report, not a lot of different from Auburn. All these 4 individuals that were out, we've known for several weeks now. Jamonta Waller was the newest one, but he was out last week, coming out of the bye week. But Caleb Burton is doubtful, at least as of today, midday today, for this particular game. Don't know that that's a huge factor on the team right now, because he's playing, but he's not starting. But that is something that will factor out with the rotation of everything there. And then you can see Kentucky. Kentucky has got a ton of people that are out, first of all. There's a doubtful one, there's a couple of questionable, and there's probables as well. So Kentucky is a team that is definitely suffering from the injury bug, where Auburn kind of was earlier in the year. I don't know where their bye week falls into all this, but I wonder if they've got it coming up pretty soon. And if so, I bet they are very, very eager to get there so they can heal up, because this is probably one of the biggest, outside of like Oklahoma, biggest list that we've seen so far. And I mean, you can see defensive line, offensive line, D-line. I mean, their interior, their linemen, even if they're not starters, they've got some depth issues there when it comes to that. Okay. So I will bring this back out on the screen, a little bit more information for you all today before we get into predictions. I'm not going to bring this up on the screen. Technical reason for that this time. It's boring. It's just, but what I'm looking at is the ESPN front page of the matchup. I'd like to know, do you guys agree with where these percentages are currently listed at? They have Auburn and Kentucky, and this is that fan predictor matchup. The fans think that Kentucky has a 51.3% chance of winning this one to Auburn's 48.7. So this is kind of like a little warm up to do the predicting. Yes or no in the chat. What do you agree with that? 51.3 percentage to 48 percentage for Auburn that Kentucky will win this game. To me, it seems about right, especially when we talk through some of those stats. I think even that predictor was a little bit higher last night when I first looked at it. Stan does not agree with it. Stan, do you think it should be much? So if you don't agree, if you don't agree with it, do you think it should be a higher percentage for Kentucky, a lower percentage for Kentucky? What do you think? Neil says, unfortunately. I don't know why that would be unfortunately. To me, the fact that we're within the margin of error, essentially, which is a very big buzzwords these days, for something like this in a road game should speak a lot to that. Stan thinks that Auburn has a 60% chance of winning that. I like the optimism. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But anyway, we'll see how it all shakes out, and that's just what's predicted on ESPN right now. You all know the leaders for Auburn: Peyton Thorne in passing, Jarquez Hunter. He is currently at 97 carries, 585 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to reach that 1,000 yard mark unless he just goes on an absolute tear for these last 5 games. Excuse me, Vanderbilt, Lamo, 4 games. 5 if you count Kentucky. Their leading rusher, it only gives me part of his name, Sumo-Car or something. He is going to be out for this game, or at least was questionable for this game. Lambert is our leading receiver with 26 receptions, 526 yards. He also, I feel like, will not be reaching that 1,000-yard mark, which everybody was wanting to see this year. That's a big disappointment. Key is their leading receiver, 35 receptions for 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you have watched our NCAA college football 25 simulation for this game, which you should, it's actually a pretty entertaining watch, and I shortened it down to just the plays this time for you all, trying some different formats with that. You're going to see Key a lot in that game, and I do mean a lot. But it's a good game. I would highly, highly recommend you watch that if you haven't. But so there's your leading scorers. They are coming off a loss at Florida, 48-20. Coach Freeze has talked about this all week, that it is an outlier. You should not look into that, anything into that. Vanderbilt did beat them at their place. Vanderbilt seems formidable this year. They did beat Ole Miss. So really, you don't know what Kentucky team you're going to get. They took Georgia down to the wire. They beat Ole Miss, who's a formidable offense at the very least. Who knows how this is going to go. But ironically enough, Auburn and Kentucky both find themselves second to last and third to last in the SEC, with Mississippi State leading the bottom of the SEC. So this will be a securing of spot in the second to last place in the SEC. We'll see what happens with that. Kentucky took out Ole Miss on the road, barely lost to Georgia at home. They are formidable, and I think people should be very respectful of them. I think it's probably most people are operating that way. All right. Well, about to move into our predictions part of the show. Let's go ahead and get you guys warmed up in that regard. And I feel like I ask this the wrong way every single time I do that, so forgive me if I don't get it right this time. But what we want to do, as I get things set up here, I'm out of practice. What we do is ask you guys to start off with as a practice question. The spread is in favor of Kentucky by 2.5 points. Will you take the over or the under on that? I think I've asked that correctly this time. Will you take the over or the under on Kentucky winning or losing? So over and under on that by 2.5 points. Let me know in the chat. This is kind of your practice round to get going before we do that. Stan says respecting the defense. The SEC really is all over the place this year. It really is. It's crazy. All right, we got we got an under, we got an over. Oh, we got an under, another under. We got an over. I thought the over was for the sum of the points, and I know it is, but I'm just asking you this way. That's why I always say that I'm not gonna be able to get this right because I don't follow betting. I just know that's an important talking point. So I love to ask you guys that. So I will probably get it wrong at some point. Okay, let's talk about predictions. Again, hold your predictions to the end of the stream, your score predictions. We will get there. There will be some things that feel like I'm asking you for the score. I'm not. We're going to talk through some different things, and hopefully this will help you make a better prediction at the end of this thing. So most of you know the drill. Some of you may have been here for the first time. Let's roll through it. We're going to start with offense for Auburn, which I know isn't extremely exciting right now. But how many passing yards do you think that Auburn will have in this particular game? How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns will Auburn get in this particular game? Some of you have been talking about some commentary from Hugh this last week about the gloves being off. He's going to be coaching the way he wants to coach now and not worrying about upsetting people. You can take that for what it's worth. I don't know. I'm looking at Kentucky's what they're giving up opponents per game. They're giving up an average of 14.2 per catch. They're giving up 178.9 passing yards per game and 5 passing touchdowns total on the year. This is a good defense that deserves your respect, but does that change your view in any way? 250 for 2, another 250 for 2 touchdowns. Like, are y'all in the same room, like talking to each other? You got to guess though, Neil. That's the whole shtick of this show. You got to, we get you have no idea, but you got to give us something. 185 to 2. 185 to, so it seems like we got a common thread for most people here. 200 touchdowns. Interesting. I would hope so. So we'll see there. I think I remember Hillbilly, and he likes to cause havoc. So if he's not going to participate on a realistic standpoint, we're not going to bring his things up. So we'll see how he wants to behave the most of the night. 201 yards and 0 touchdowns. So another one there. Hey, listen, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't score a single touchdown, but we're definitely going to have more than 100 passing yards. So not very, very realistic. 135 to 1. I am not very bullish on the passing offense. I will say that we'll score at least one passing touchdown. I think we're going to have to. And they're giving up 100, I think it was 78 yards per game. I feel like we'll come in somewhere close to that. So I will say one. You know what? No, I'm gonna say 195 and one passing touchdown. That's where I think it'll be. I say this because when PT threw a beautiful pass in the end zone only to be missed. It's bad. It was bad. You're gonna trigger me again, reminding me of that. And again, it is a constructive criticism of who dropped it. Who was it? Robert Lewis. My goodness, I kept trying to say Caleb Burton, and it wasn't him. Robert Lewis. But at the same time, my anger around that situation was less about him and more about just this is exact thing that would happen. This is the exact thing that would happen. It made me so angry at the time. All right, let's keep moving on. How many rushing yards? How many rushing touchdowns for Auburn in this game? How many rushing yards? How many rushing touchdowns for Auburn in this game? Let me give you, while you're thinking about it, typing it in. They are giving up, let's see, average per rush is 3.3 that they're giving up against opponents. Average per game, 104.7. And they've given up a total of 9 rushing touchdowns. So they've done pretty good against the run for the most part, it seems like. What do you predict? Rushing yardage and rushing touchdowns for Auburn in this game. 180 to yards to 3 touchdowns, 150 to 1, 305 touchdowns. My goodness, he just went to the other end of the spectrum on this. Jeez. I will tell you this, that if that's our friend Kevin type of predictions right there. If that happens, we're going to be doing just fine. We're going to be doing that's 35 points right there. Surely we'll get one more and break that 40-point margin that our OC wanted us to hit at the beginning of the year. You think the game's going to be pretty low scoring. I think when you talk about it being Kentucky's defense and Auburn's inconsistent offense, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. I will predict 205 rushing and 1 rushing touchdown. And 1 rushing touchdown. I think some of you heard me say this on the stream, and you can probably know where I'm heading with the score prediction at the end of this. Again, hold them to the end. But there's a certain number that I think I cannot let myself go past. And you probably know where I'm heading at this point. But 1 rushing touchdown and 205 rushing yards. All right. How many sacks will Auburn allow in this game? How many sacks will Auburn allow in this particular game? Kentucky is getting fit. They've gotten 15 sacks for 106 yards on the year. If that helps you think about things, we have struggled with this, especially on the very first drive on the road in the last 2 games. Now, reportedly, there's going to be some shuffling on the offensive line this week, potentially, that may alleviate things. I don't know. But I'm not super excited about what could be happening yet again on the road. So we got 2, 3, 2, 1. Corey with 6. Here's the ironic thing that seems a little hyperbolic. I'm not convinced that Corey isn't close to something there. I'm surprised that it's not going to be there. 4 for 3 1 for 3-1-3. Okay. I feel like 15 sacks so far in the year by Kentucky. And they played. They actually haven't gotten a lot of sacks this year. I'll go 3. I wanted to go higher. I wanted to go into the 4, possibly 5 range. But obviously, Peyton being a little bit more elusive kind of puts himself in a situation where he may not get sacked unless it's just an Olay like we saw on the first drive of the last couple of times. But yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Bringing that out. I mean, he could have had that the last couple of games. It's bad. PT gets sacked 6 times. Whoa, boy. You ain't kidding. I mean, his confidence is already so low, but if he gets sacked 6 times on the road again, or like in any way, but in this game after what he's been through, it's just going to be the all-time low. Let's pray that Corey is incorrect on that. But I do want to say it's going to be on the higher end. But the last minute I changed to 3. Okay. Whew. How many turnovers will Auburn have in this game? How many turnovers will Auburn's offense have in this game? Now, it has gotten better. The question is, especially when we talked about a defense like Kentucky, are they going to be able to force us into situations where that happens? I feel like if you don't predict Auburn to have at least 1 turnover, you're probably not being honest with yourself. Maybe you are. I don't know. But I think everybody's going to pick. Now, I don't care if you go interception. I don't care if you go fumble. But I feel like the trend has been weird. And I know last week was an anomaly, but we're going to at least have one of that. We could. I don't know if you want to count turnover on downs in this, because that technically would be a turnover too. I'm going to say a total of 2. Total of 2. Probably him getting rocked, maybe. So we got 2, 1. He meant 1. Sorry. Okay, so you meant 1 those. 3, 1, 1. So everybody seems to think we're going to have at least 1 turnover. And then, but you may vary on what it may be. A fumble, a interception. I'm going to go interception. I feel like it'll be an interception. Anything under 5 is a good day. Jeez, that's bad when your standards are that low, JD. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Okay. Again, this may be an easy question, but I'm going to ask it. Who will be Auburn's top rusher on the day? Will it be Jarquez? Will it be Damari? Will it be Jeremiah Cobb? Will it be Peyton Thorne? What say you? Everybody screamed last week and 2 weeks in the bye week. Give it to Jarquez. It'll solve everything, and it didn't. So will it be someone else? Will he get stymied at the line again and somebody else take the lead? Because I guess it's dependent on what you call the best rusher, because you could have 35 total yards, but have 2 touchdowns. And so scoring wise, you would be the best running back. But then you could have somebody who didn't score a touchdown and had 60 yards because they had a breakaway or something like that. I don't know. Because of the touches alone, Hillbilly says Hunter. We got a PT, a Cobb prediction. Is that a wishful thinking, Corey, or is that a you really think it is? Another Hunter. Cam Coleman tipped the ball, no doubt. What? I don't know what that's about. Oh, what you were saying earlier. I got you. I mean, I think it's going to be Jarquez Hunter right now because, as coaches said, you got to feed the dude, but we got to actually be able to give him an opportunity to do something. It ain't as simple as just handing the ball off to him and things get better. And Auburn's going to run some options. Did y'all like, hey, let me just a quick pause in this. Did y'all like the variability of the run game last week, what they did with that? Even if you like throw in that some of those were like little, I don't know if you call them the jet pass, sweep passes, where they kind of just flip it forward and the person takes it. Did y'all like that a lot? I did, because I thought it kind of threw a loop on Missouri, who had a pretty good defense. Most of you agree that you like that a lot. If Hunter's not the leading rusher, we might be in trouble. But what if Jeremiah Cobb has a great day? What if Damari has a great day? What if Peyton Thorne is the only one that can get something going because they're all stymied at the line and he's just pulling the ball out and running for it? He won a whole game by himself last year with on his feet alone for us. But I would tend to agree with you. Jarquez not having good days does not spell success for us. This could be a lot more of a discussion. Who will be Auburn's top receiver on the day? Who will be Auburn's top receiver? You got your usual cast of characters. Everybody said Keandre Lambert-Smith last game, and I think he led it by the end of it, but it wasn't by a wide margin. What do you think? Who will it be? Are people finally starting to key off that KLS, you got to lock him down? Is he just that good and he's still going to be our leading wide receiver? I gotta feel like it's going to be somebody that we haven't talked about lately because we've got so many different weapons. I forget who to credit it to, but I think it was one of the other Auburn podcasts I saw a clip of talking about they felt like this was going to be a great game for Perry Thompson to kind of come in here and not have a lot of attention on him because if you have Cam Coleman out there, if you have Keandre out there, if he comes in at the same time, and then maybe he breaks free. So there could be a couple of ones there. We got a couple of predictions here. KLS Smith. Oh, who am I thinking of? Who are you thinking of? Cam Coleman, Simmons, Coleman, KLS, KLS, another KLS. I don't know what last is. Hillbilly KLS. We can actually catch a pass to him if it's thrown. WT is still sore about that. I will predict. I like that weird Perry Thompson prediction that I heard. But I think Cam Coleman's due for a game where he takes the lead in that category. So I'm going to say Cam Coleman this time. 50-50 passes to Cam would be fun. All right, what is Hillbilly saying here? This is about the run game. Early in the last game, we moved the ball very well in that pistol formation. Never seen it again. We should have Hunter and Cobb in the backfield 80% of the time. Or Damari. I don't care who it is. But yeah, the times that we had two running backs back there, it seemed to kind of give the other people some trouble. So that I would like that. All right, last one. And again, this is something that was requested to be added to our offensive predictions. Oh, we got to move. We got to get going here. What is your third down percentage prediction for Auburn? Meaning, how many of their third downs on offense will they achieve? Trying to see if there's anything. Kentucky is giving up a 39% on third downs for their opponents. So let that help your predictions. Think about Auburn, how successful or not they've been. This one could be the biggest determining factor in the game. 60, 40, 65%. Remember that 39% is the average, so they've given up more. Seemed like Florida probably had a better percentage the way they ran over them. If it's a low-scoring game, that probably, which I think it was Neil that predicted it earlier as a low-scoring game, I think that would make you think it's going to be a bad third down percentage. Short yardage, third down, 50%. I'm going to say I like that 39%, so I'll just make it an even 40% right at what they allow. Hopefully we can get... That's just stupid. Hopefully we can get a little trickeration in there to have just a slight bit of improvement to what Kentucky is capable of as a defense. All right, let's keep moving. Defense now. We're moving to defense. What is our defense going to do? How many passing yards and passing touchdowns will Kentucky have against our defense? That is your next prediction. What do you got? Your next prediction is passing yards and passing touchdowns for Kentucky. Again, I will go try to give you some reference if you'd like that. They are, as an offense, averaging 167.9 per game. Passing yards, yes, I think that's I'm reading that correctly on their list. And 6 passing touchdowns total on the year. What do you think? 180 to 1, 160 to 1 touchdown. I was wondering if we were going to see Randy here tonight. We're talking. Hey, Randy, we need help. Help us beat Kentucky. Y'all barely did it, but you did it. 3 passing touchdowns, no yardage though. You got to have some yardage for that. 220 to 1, 150 to 0, 150 to 1. See, Randy, Neil and I both live in Georgia, so we have to deal with some of the worst of your fan base. So every time it's like a trigger for us when we both see Georgia Bulldogs. Randy's one of the good ones. 114-2. All right, WT, what are you on tonight? You just acted a fool. They're giving up, or they're getting passing yards 167, 0.9 per game. I think they're going to get at least that because of our defensive backs. You know, obviously I've talked about Key needs to be the wide receiver you need to watch for them. I'll say 170, 180 and 2 passing touchdowns for them. 180 and 2 passing touchdowns for them. I think that's where they're going to have to attack us to beat us. How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns for Kentucky? How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns for Kentucky? Their offense against our defense. Their rushing yardage per game, 152. 8 total rushing touchdowns. Keep in mind, their starting running back is questionable. Another one of their running backs is questionable. They also are going to be having their right tackle out for the game, who's been starting all year. Don't know if that's going to help factor into for you. I think this is kind of why I said about passing earlier. I feel like they're going to have to beat us doing that, and thus there's going to be a concentration of that, and that's where we're most susceptible. So I'm going to say that's where they have their most success, is against us in the passing game. Let's see what you guys are saying. Has a knack for making bad quarterbacks look good. I never understood it. It is some wild thing. 90-0, 120-3 touchdowns, 100-1, 125-1, 100 no rushing yards, 100 yards no rushing touchdowns. I read that backwards. I had a little bit of dyslexia there. 73-1. It's a very specific yardage, Corey. Like, that's so specific. It's funny. I'm going to say that they're going to have at least one rushing touchdown off of, they're getting 152 per game. I think they get 105 and one rushing touchdown. And I feel like it's going to be one of those weird days where does Brock Vandagriff run a lot? Anybody know? If he does, he's probably going to in this game and look like a Heisman winner, just running the ball around when he shouldn't be able to. Randy, you should know this. Did Brock Vandagriff run around a lot or no? I've never known the outlook on him. All right, we'll keep moving along. Who's going to be Auburn's top tackler? Who will be Auburn's top tackler? Hillbilly says he has wheels. That's one opinion. Corey says no, so that's a different opinion. I don't know where to go with that. I'll trust Randy if he's listening right now, his opinion on Brock Vandagriff, because he's actually his team has played them. Who's going to be Auburn's top tackler in this game? In a world where the ball's thrown a lot, maybe against our struggling DBs at times, you might expect one of them to have to make some tackles, maybe a safety. You got some usual cast of characters. You've got your linebackers in Asante, Austin Keys. Dorian Mausi has been doing very well as of late. I think he's probably one of those guys that starts creeping up in here. Asante is somebody who usually gets it. DeMarcus Reddick, Armand Asante. I don't think that's his name, but Eugene Asante. It's Mausi, Mausi. Mausi is how I think. And don't forget about Falk, guys. That's a good prediction too. Keys, we got 2 Keys, Gage Keys and Austin Keys. Remember that. So we got a lot of different predictions there. I'm going to say Falk. I think Falk is having a progressively strong year, and I think he is going to no, he won't lead, though. He'll probably have a couple of sacks, but Jalen McLeod. I'm going to go back to Jalen McLeod. Got a Asante. All right, here, Randy's given us his opinion on BVG. Brock Vandagriff can absolutely hurt you with his feet, and he will not slide when third downs or touchdowns are on the line. He hurt Georgia escaping pressure, not on called runs. I haven't watched them since. Okay, but I just wanted to know what you thought about them in your game. With their running backs being either out or injured or not 100%, I wonder if we're going to see more of that. Now, Auburn has done a great job of containing, for the most part, outside of an explosive player or two, mobile quarterbacks. So we talk about the New Mexico State. That was last year. New Mexico guy, Taylon Green against Arkansas. Help me. Oklahoma's guy. What was his name? Jackson Arnold. I think that was the one we played. He was supposed to be a lot more mobile. I think we kept him in check. He's outside of that one big run. So there you go. All right, we got to get moving. How many sacks, fumbles, interceptions for Auburn's defense in this game? I know that's a lot in one. It's just easier to handle that, and you can answer it whatever way you want. I usually say the best thing is to answer it how I asked it. How many sacks, how many fumbles recovered, how many interceptions for Auburn's defense in this game? I'll look for turnover margin for you guys. Turnovers. That's points off of turnovers. They have lost 13 fumbles. They have had 13 fumbles, only lost 2 of them. That's incredible. Yeah, I think that's the right way to read that on here. Trying to look for INTs, interceptions. Where is that on here on the list? That's interception returns. Either I'm not seeing or skipping past it, but it looks like they fumbled the ball a lot. They just don't lose it a whole lot. What do y'all think? What do we think here? 3, 1, and 1. 5, 0, and 1. 3 sacks, 1 fumble, 1 interception, 2, 1, 1. Please nobody write 911 because that'll probably trigger something in YouTube. 3 sacks, no interceptions, 1 fumble for 6. Ooh, a fumble recovery for 6. I like it. Okay, I will predict. I think we're going to get after this guy and force them to beat us through the air. So I think we're going to have at least 3 sacks. I think we will probably get 1 interception, and they fumbled the ball a lot. We're gonna recover a fumble. If Auburn can get 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, that's going to play really well for them. They got to win the turnover margin in these games. Okay. Yes or no? Some of you have already answered this. Will Auburn have any defensive touchdowns in this game? What do you think? Yes or no? Just real quick, and now we'll kind of rapid fire through our special teams so we can get to the meat and potatoes of the prediction portion of the show. Rapid fire, any defensive touchdowns? We had somebody predict a fumble for 6. Stan says no. If Auburn can get one, I'll feel a lot better about our chances. It does not appear that everybody is feeling like that will happen, though, for the most part. Okay. Some of y'all can continue to answer, maybe. Thanks for stopping by, Hillbilly. Okay. All right. Let's do special teams really quickly here. How many punts will Auburn have in this game? And when I ask this, think about if your goal is for Auburn to win this game, and you think they're going to win this game, maybe I should ask it that way. If you think Auburn's going to win this game, how many punts is the limit they can have and be successful as a winner of this game? Or just answer, how many punts do you think Auburn's going to have? My belief is that we're going to have probably 5 punts. I think we're going to struggle at times as an offense and have to punt it away, and we're going to really lean heavily into the wonder from down under. 3, 6, 4, 4. So one person's higher than what I predicted there. I think we all recognize that the offense is going to stall out at some point, which is very, very sad. How many field goals attempted and made? While you're answering that, this is for Auburn special teams. Let me acknowledge we're not 100% sure what's going to happen with field goals this week. Apparently, the intention is to utilize McPherson on shorter yardage situations. That's contingent upon our offense getting close enough for that. Outside of that, it could just be straight a Towns-Magoo show. So what do you think? I think that Auburn's going to have 2 field goals minimum. I'm going to predict that they go 2 for 3. 2 for 3 on the day. 2 for 2. 1 for 3, 3 for 4, 2 for 1, 3 attempted, 2 made. So we got some similarities there with me. Kind of what Corey was talking about here. 6 points. So we should could do on special teams. Really feel bad for Towns Magoo. He's been asked to do a lot, and it's just not worked out for him to start off his career that year. I really love it when a kicker can come in and spend a year getting used to the crowd noise and stuff like that and not being called upon right away. It's worked out that way for every year until this year. Feel bad for him. I'm going to skip that question. We'll do it another time just for the sake of time. Last question for you guys. This may be the biggie. How many penalties and how many yards off those penalties will Auburn have against it in the game? So think about it this way. Auburn has been one of the most penalized on special teams, I believe, is a stat out there. Outside of that, I think we're okay in terms of that. I think on the road, you're always susceptible to either false starts, legal formations, those type of things. So I think that's going to come into play. So I'm at least predicting one false start with that's 5 yards. Legal formation, I think, is 5 yards. So I'm going to say that's 10 right there and 2 penalties. I feel like we're going to get probably a holding call or 2. That's 4, and it's 15 yards, 10 yards apiece. So we're sitting at 40 with 4, if I'm doing my math correctly in my head. Probably going to have a pass interception, or excuse me, a pass interference, and probably some frustration that comes out with a personal foul. So that's 30 yards there. So I'm going to say 6 penalties, 7 penalties for 80 yards. 7 penalties for 80 yards. So there's everybody else. Debbie T thinks we're going to have a lot. A lot. Okay. There you go. All right. We have talked about the game. We have previewed it. We have talked about the storylines, the series records. We have talked about every angle we could. Talked about the offense, passing yards, rushing yards, all the different things, top rushers. We have talked about defense, who's going to be the top tackler, what we're going to allow. We've also talked about special teams, punts, field goals, all that, penalty yards, third down percentages. You have now thought through it thoroughly. In the chat right now, I want to know, what is your score prediction for Auburn versus Kentucky? Give me the score and who wins, just to clarify, because sometimes people put the score and I just have to make an assumption. Score and winner right now in the chat. Lock it in for the game. We're going to hold you to it. And if somebody gets it right, you're going to get a big, big shout out from me in this game. I try not to come into this show without really thinking about it at all, because I like to walk through all of this with you all, talk about it, and see potentially what maybe some of y'all are thinking, but certainly what sticks out to me when we talk through some of these scenarios. I am going to stick very closely to what I predicted with our touchdowns and stuff like that when we were doing that. I'm going to say that Auburn loses 21-20 in a heartbreaker. I think that's still close to low scoring. I think we'll get that rushing touchdown. I think we'll get that passing touchdown. I think we'll have to make some field goals, but I have a heartbreaking, sinking feeling that we are not done yet when it comes to those scary, scary situations. And we're going to give one up on the series record there. We got 24-17 Auburn, 34-17, 27-10 Auburn is going to win the football game. Unbeaten Lake being unserious. If that happens, I will riot. 16-13 Auburn, 34-24 Auburn, and everybody is going to boo me except for Corey, who's there with me. 28-21. I should remove my hat. Well, if I like the hat. So y'all boo me all you want. That's fine. I predicted this as a loss at the beginning of the year. I do think I haven't seen enough from this team to make me feel like that should change. I grant you that there's been some struggles for Kentucky. They've got some injury stuff. I just feel like this team is still trying to figure out how to win a close game. And will it happen this week? I hope so. I hope it's the reverse of what I'm talking about. We're talking about 21-20 Auburn. But I feel like it's going to be a close game, low-ish scoring, and I think, unfortunately, Auburn's due for a little bit of heartbreak. I will be extremely excited if that's not the case, and we can finally have a celebration post-game stream. Let's not do another Mississippi State score. That is terrible. I've seen enough. If they can put it all together in one game, that's the big thing, right? Put it together. All right, we got a few minutes left. I will take some Q&As for you all for the rest of the stream. So pop them in now. It can be anything Auburn related. I guess, try to keep it football related, but Auburn football related, drop that in now. A couple reminders for you all. Post-game show. Don't forget about it. It will be later, but it will be right after the game ends. So it won't be this, you have to wait for me to get back to the car, get set up, all that stuff. Stop being hounded by someone thinking I'm an Uber doing from the mobile broadcast studio. That's going to be there for you. Hope you can join us. Episode 99 of the Auburn Experience podcast, the flagship show of the E2C network, is going to happen this Sunday at 9 Eastern time. Join us for that. It'll be a good conversation. I am hoping that we will be able to announce something for episode 100 for you guys on that show. It is up in the air as it could be right now. But I will hope you guys understand we are trying to do something special for episode 100. It's kind of getting a little bit, we got some details to work out, and we've done what we can on our end for the most part to get those details figured out. Wednesday night show, call-in show. Join us. We'll be talking about all things Auburn and taking calls from you. And of course, always support us by supporting Alumni Hall. Follow our link in our description link on YouTube and pretty much anywhere else. And if you buy something from Alumni Hall through that link, it'll help support us. Keep that in mind as you go throughout your day and want some Auburn gear. Okay, don't need that. Back on the stream here. Let's see what everybody is saying. What else do we got here? The ragging will be unmerciful for you, Kyle, come post-game show. Can I be honest with you? I want you guys to be able to dog me for being one of two people, Corey as well, who predicted a loss. I will welcome it. Y'all can dog me as much as you want, because if y'all get to dog me, that means we win. I am all for that. And that's fine. I am rooting for y'all to be able to tell me I told you so about the score. I am rooting for that. So I hope that y'all are right. And I won't be rubbing it in y'all's face if I was right, if I ended up being right, or just about the loss or the score or whatever, because it's not fun for anybody when we don't win. Corey asked this question earlier. He says, this is off topic, but did you do a video of NCAA getting rid of NLI, the National Letter of Intent? How's that going to work for recruits? I'm going to be honest with you, Corey. I have no clue. I read briefly about it, not in great detail. I've listened to some commentary from people I trust on the matter about it, and I still don't really understand it. I wish I haven't done a video about it, because I am not informed enough about it other than to just speculate. And I don't even know that I have any speculations on it. It's the wild, wild west. And that is my honest take on it. This just keeps changing every day. I'm assuming Perry Thompson is being redshirted, which is fine. Hopefully he will stay with us next season. I wouldn't go that far. I feel like I heard Freeze talk a little bit about him this week in the press conference, unless I'm just imagining that. So to me, that screams he's going to be not redshirted. I don't know. Like I was talking about earlier during the wide receiver section, I feel like he's due for one of those games. 313 thinks we're going to have a game-winning field goal drive with McPherson. Ooh, he'll be the town hero. If AU wins, will you do a post-game show wearing a dunce cap? If I had one, I would wear one for you. But would it be that bad of a prediction? Is it honestly that bad of a prediction for me to predict Auburn's going to lose to Kentucky on the road this year? I mean, it's not that bad of a prediction. It's not like me predicting that Auburn was going to beat, I don't know, Oregon on the road this year. That's a dunce cap, like based on what we currently know right now. Okay, guys, thank y'all for hanging out tonight. Always enjoy Thursday nights, because I love interacting with you all and hearing your perspectives. It does help shape my perspectives on the game, and kind of puts me in a mind space of maybe what I'm not thinking about and stuff like that. But you got my official score prediction. 21-20, Kentucky wins, and another heartbreaker for Auburn. And I hope I will be incorrect for all of your sakes and for our team's sake as well. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. Hope to see you on the post-game show, and check out all the other content we got out for you on E2C Network across all the different platforms. But until I get the opportunity to talk to you again, thank you for your time, and War Eagle.